Welcome to my podcast on the influence of listening and speaking in the development of reading and writing skills. My name is Kimberly Fisher, and I'm coming to you from Loop Talk, Grand Canyon University. The influence on listening and speaking skills begins the moment our little babies are born and begins evolving until they are about 6 months old. As soon as they are 6 months old. The influence on listening and speaking skills begins the moment our little babies are born and begins evolving until they are 6 months old. They begin crying and cooing, babbling, gesturing, imitating sounds, and have the ability to respond to voices, and some can even say a few words by the time they are 1. Between 1 and 3 years, toddlers begin understanding more than they can express using their own words, as their vocabulary is only at about 50 words. They begin building simple sentences and are able to follow simple commands. By the age of 3, they should have gone from following one-step instructions to following two-step. Those simple commands will then quickly become short phrases, and they will begin engaging in interactive activities, singing songs, and asking questions that will stimulate their language skills. By the age of 3, they will be asking more complex questions, engaging in conversations, and expressing themselves more often. Between 3 and 5 years of age, which is what we call during their preschool years, a child's listening and speaking development is rapidly expanding as their sentences become more complex and they are able to retell simple stories, according to the early learning standards. Young children are becoming more confident in their conversational skills as they can express their ideas clearly and participate in group discussions. Their skill levels are all according to the early learning standards. Typical development of listening and speaking skills for children with K through grade 3 are outlined as according to the Common Core state standards. Kindergarten, the students have the ability to follow multi-step directions and understand the concepts of the sounds and words and engage in conversations. They begin focusing on their foundational communication skills, which is in their phonemic awareness, expression of ideas, their active listening, and their collaborative conversation. Children are able to describe familiar people, places, or events. Like you can say, put away your crayons. And they should also be able to say things back to you. But they should be able to understand, put away your crayons, or put on your coat. Grades 1 through 3. Students' speaking and listening skills are more refined. Children are able to express their ideas clearly and participate in group discussions. They can actively listen and recall specific details from stories to show that they understand what they are hearing and that they are able to follow multi-step directions. Students have a longer processing time and they can understand a complex language that is spoken to them. Children can begin to build on students' ideas during conversations and that they can ask for clarification when they do not understand what they may have heard. So students are able to express their ideas using evidence from spoken or written text to support their arguments. They engage in the logical sequences and can use appropriate vocabulary. Language delays can significantly impact a child's listening and speaking skills. They may struggle to understand instructions, express their thoughts, or engage in conversations. The social isolation and the long-term academic challenge that arises in their reading and writing can lead to frustration within their communication and difficulties interacting with others. These delays can often impair their ability to process auditory information and their ability to produce spoken language. This would result in a limited vocabulary bank, poor sentence structure, and difficulty in following instructions. The ability to process is delayed, which causes the decoding to be longer with what is being heard. This makes conversations flow at a slower pace and can cause participation within the classroom to be difficult. So these individuals with the delay will not engage in conversations as much. Their social interaction is also difficult, as being able to maintain conversations with their peers is hard, which causes a person to have a low self-esteem with their ability to communicate with others. Children also struggle with understanding directions as they have difficulties with those verbal interactions of the instruction, being able to understand it. Listening and speaking skills are foundational for reading and writing. They can help children understand the structure of language, they expand their vocabulary, and develop phonemic awareness. These two skills act as a fundamental bedrock for reading and writing. Our oral language is our primary, and our written language builds upon that. As the comprehension is the foundational bedrock for reading and writing, it is important that children have the ability to understand the complex ideas through the listening, so they are prepared to comprehend similar complexities within the text. A critical part of becoming an early reader is being able to identify and manipulate the sounds in the spoken words. That is why it is important that the children can speak and listen to individual sounds that will then develop their phonological awareness. Their vocabulary development comes from the listening and the speaking before then they see the words printed on the book or on paper. The oral vocabulary will help children recognize and decode words, giving them the ability to read more fluently and have a better reading comprehension. Children can even build their knowledge to understand context just by listening and having their own conversations of context in which they have read. So the writing skills are influenced by listening as well as by processing, speaking in complete sentences, and by having children use words in their correct sentence structure needed for writing. Children can verbally organize their thoughts and ideas to tell a story or explain a topic through the ability of speaking and then transfer those narratives into writing. And then students who have a high vocabulary word bank can move beyond the simple words and express more complex thoughts within their writing abilities. Listening and speaking skills are the foundation that literacy is constructed on, so when children have disabilities with one or the other, the reading and writing are a big struggle for them. Some strategies that can help students develop the listening and speaking skills within the classroom might be interactive activities like role play, where specific roles are given in a group to ensure all voices are being heard, an area to give a chance to speak and listen. This helps the quieter students from being left out. You can also do an interval timer where there's a table talk. This is given to ensure students have dedicated time to speak and a dedicated time to listen to each other. You can also sentence stems where there's frames that are already set up by the teacher to help students start the conversations or on giving them topics where you can say, what I heard you say was, and then they can continue the conversation from there. Or you can start it with, today I went to the store and in the vegetable aisle I got a, and then the child would continue from there. You can also use visual aids for those to have pictures to encourage them on a sentence structure to where they would start with the picture or the word, with the picture and the word, and then the student could continue on from there. Collaborative learning is important in a classroom as it helps to transform students from inactive listeners to a more active participant. It encourages the children to listen to other ideas, express their own thoughts, and actively participate in the discussion. It helps to provide an environment of learning where the student feels more comfortable with taking risks when speaking the language than in the fear of making a mistake, as it is a more minimal consequence to them. They don't feel a lot of pressure coming from the teacher or their peer when working together in a small group. The students actively listen and provide feedback, which enhances their communication confidence. This increases academic engagement as students engage more with the material. It helps teach the students how to problem solve, allowing them to navigate more with conflict resolution because it mimics the real world situations more. Dyslexia can also affect a child's ability to process and understand spoken language, which impacts their ability to listen and speak. The child might struggle with word retrieval, which makes finding the right words during conversations quite difficult. This can lead to frustration for them as well, causing confidence issues when learning to speak, especially when under stress. Dyslexia can cause auditory memory and comprehension challenges when trying to remember verbal instruction or details that are long in nature. It can be difficult to recall the same instructions from their memory output. Dyslexia causes speech production challenges as sometimes individuals can experience difficulties with articulating complex words, which then can lead to speech sounding errors. Dyslexia students also have experienced trouble with detecting or recognizing rhythm of language or stressed syllables that have interfered with their verbal expressive reading. Strategies that can be used to support those students with dyslexia to help them with their visual aids, like graphic organizers. Another helpful strategy would be to break down the multi-step direction into smaller sequential steps. You can use assistive technology like speech-to-text tools. Devices like these allow students to read aloud. Audiobooks are another helpful tool strategy to still follow along in building their vocabulary and learning the proper connection of the spoken word forms. So this is just a helpful tool podcast for you wanting to know what the influences of listening and speaking have to do with reading and writing, but you can see how you need to be able to listen and speak the language first before you can actually put those words down on within reading and writing. Thank you.